Okay, Taoism. It really emphasizes finding harmony, a kind of flow with the universe, often pictured as the Tao itself, the natural way of things.
Of a way.
The way, exactly.
Yeah.
And this core concept of letting go is just fundamental here. But it's often misunderstood, I find. It's not about giving up or being passive at all.
Yeah, it's not just resignation, is it?
No, exactly. It's more an act of trust, trusting in how life unfolds. It's about finding your purpose within that natural flow rather than just exhausting yourself struggling against currents you probably can't change anyway.
That reminds me of that that really memorable story you sent us about the farmer and the horse. It kind of illustrates this perspective perfectly.
Oh, yeah, the farmer. Classic Taoist scale. So his only horse runs away. All the neighbors come over. Such bad luck. And the farmer just says, maybe? Right. Then the horse comes back the next day, bringing 3 wild horses with it. Instant wealth. Neighbors cheer. Amazing luck. And he says,
Maybe?
Maybe. Then his son tries to ride one of the wild horses, falls off, breaks his leg. Neighbors again, oh, terrible misfortune, such bad luck.
And the farmer?
Maybe. Then military officials show up, drafting all the young men for war. But they see the son's broken leg, and they pass him by. Neighbors celebrate, incredible good luck. And the farmer, with that same calm.
Maybe.
Maybe. It just cuts right through our knee-jerk judgments about good and bad, doesn't it? You really just don't know the full picture, how things ripple out.
Precisely.
And that perspective, that ties directly into the Taoist idea of wu-wei, right?
Wu-wei, yes. Often translated as effortless action or sometimes non-action. But again, it doesn't mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the natural way.
Think of like a really skilled artisan who seems to work without any strain. Or the classic one, water flowing around a rock. It doesn't smash its way through. It just finds the path of least resistance, naturally.
So instead of trying to force things, like sticking rigidly to a plan or just muscling through obstacles, wu-wei suggests something more adaptable.
Yeah, adaptable is a good word. Stepping back sometimes, observing, and then acting from a place of alignment, not from stress or sheer willpower.
Trusting the process a bit more.
Exactly. It's recognizing when to push and when to wait. Allowing things to unfold more naturally instead of trying to impose your will on absolutely everything. It cultivates patience, definitely, and a deeper trust in things beyond your immediate control.
And that seems to lead right into other Taoist virtues you highlighted, like simplicity and patience.
Yeah, and in our world, our complex, hurried world, these can feel pretty radical. Simplicity is about, well, wanting less, fewer ambitions maybe, finding contentment right here, right now, not always needing external stuff to feel okay.
Yeah. It's not just about minimalism, like having fewer things, is it? It sounds like more of an inner state.
Oh, absolutely. It's about clearing out the mental clutter too, emotional clutter, and patience just flows from that naturally.
Right.
Recognizing that, good things, meaningful things often take time. They grow slowly.
So you learn to appreciate the journey itself, not just fixate on the destination.
Right. And that reduces a lot of stress and anxiety about outcomes because you're more present along the way.
Okay, and then maybe the toughest one for a lot of us, non-attachment.
Letting go of attachment. To possessions, sure, but also to specific outcomes, even to really rigid ideas we have about ourselves or other people. Taoism sees attachment as a primary source of suffering.
Because when we cling too tightly,
we live in fear of losing things or people. Or status.
And this applies to our ideas too, right? Like being attached to being right all the time.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Letting go of that allows for more open-mindedness, more flexibility, more growth. But maybe the deepest non-attachment, according to Taoism, is to the ego, that fixed sense of I, or me, that often drives our desires and fears.
By loosening the ego's grip,
you can connect more fully with the flow of life, with the Tao itself, feel more part of the whole.
Which, according to the sources, brings some pretty profound benefits.
Mental peace, for sure. Less stress, less anxiety. You break free from those negative thought loops sometimes. And it improves relationships, too, when you let go of expectations and trying to control others.
Accepting people as they are.
Yeah. And even increase creativity, potentially, by freeing the mind from the pressure of perfection. Ultimately, it leads to a kind of personal freedom. Liberation from constraints, fear of failure, attachments. Living more authentically, becoming more adaptable, more resilient.
There's that great quote from Lao Tzu in the sources. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be.
It's powerful.
It's about allowing yourself to evolve by releasing that tight grip on who you think you are.
It's a really compelling starting point, this idea of finding strength and letting go.
Yeah, it really is. Which is such a fascinating counterpoint to our next philosophy, Stoicism, which is almost the opposite in a way. It's all about building incredible inner strength to handle whatever life throws at you.
Right. Stoicism, it really offers a kind of balm for a restless mind, as one source put it. It's a very practical guide for cultivating resilience. And figures like Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, are central.
His meditations, yeah. Those personal notes, never meant to be published, are just packed with wisdom on resilience, finding peace. He often points out how our suffering comes less from events themselves and more from our perceptions, our resistance to them.
He constantly brings the focus back inside, back to what is within our control, our thoughts, our judgments, our actions. A key principle from his work is the acceptance of the present moment. He actually writes, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart."
Wow, so it's a call to really surrender to reality, to meet whatever comes up with full presence, finding peace even in chaos instead of just constantly wishing things were different.
Exactly. And related to that is cultivating objective judgment, trying to see things as they really are, stripping away our emotional baggage and biases. He urges, now at this very moment, unselfish action. Now at this very moment, willing acceptance. Now at this very moment of all external events.
So it's about clear-eyed perception first, then a rational, virtuous response.
Because for the Stoics, virtue isn't just a good thing, it's the highest good.
Right.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Therefore, guard accordingly. For Aurelius, aligning your thoughts and actions with virtue, courage, justice, wisdom, temperance, that is the path to true happiness, regardless of your external situation.
He also forces us to confront something we often try to avoid, understanding impermanence.
Yeah. All is ephemeral fame, and the famous as well, recognizing that everything is transient, possessions, reputation, even life itself. It's not meant to be morbid for Stoics. It's actually liberating.
Oh, so?
It frees you from clinging on to things that will inevitably pass away, and it encourages you to value the present moment more fully.
Makes sense. And a constant theme seems to be the emphasis on self-reflection.
Huge. Look within. Within is the fountain of good. Turning inward, examining our own thoughts, our biases, our fears. That's crucial. It's where you gain clarity and build that inner strength.
And the self-reflection then directly impacts the mastery of emotions.
Definitely. Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. Now, this isn't about denial. It's more like cognitive reframing.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that our emotional response is often a choice based on how we interpret things. Like he said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of his thoughts. Your inner world is literally shaped by what you focus on.
So building that strong inner world becomes the foundation for facing challenges.
That's exactly where embracing adversity comes in. Maybe one of the most famous Stoic ideas. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way.
The obstacle is the way.
Right. Obstacles aren't just roadblocks, they're opportunities. Chances to practice virtue, build resilience, find a new path forward. It's the core of amor fati, loving your fate, embracing everything that happens, good or bad, as fuel.
That requires some serious integrity, though, aligning your actions with your values even when it's really hard.
Absolutely. The true worth of a man is to be measured by the objects he pursues. Not external stuff like wealth or status, but the internal pursuit of virtue and wisdom.
And underpinning all of this is the role of reason.
Critical. Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Stoics really emphasize using rational thinking to cut through the noise, tell truth from opinion, and make judgments based on logic and virtue, not just impulse or what everyone else thinks.
Okay, so moving from Aurelius's more personal, internal reflections, Seneca offers incredibly practical advice, doesn't he? Drawn from his own very turbulent life. His letters from a Stoic feel like direct guidance.
Seneca is so relatable, I think. He doesn't just theorize. He tells you how to live Stoicism day to day. Take his famous letter 1, on saving time. He's pretty blunt. Most people just let time slip away carelessly, focusing on useless stuff.
He tells you to be miserly with your time, right? To guard it fiercely because it's the one thing you can't get back.
Exactly. It's not just about being productive. It's about respecting your own life. And then in letter 4, on the terrors of death, he tackles our biggest fear head on.
Accepting death frees us from a huge source of anxiety.
That's his argument. A peaceful life is impossible if you're constantly worried about dying. The key is to, rehearse departing contentedly. Focus not on the length of your life, but on how nobly you live it. Virtue, he suggests, should make you as fearless as death itself.
Wow. Letter 6 on sharing knowledge was interesting too. He really values conversation, the living dialogue, over just reading books.
Yeah, the power of the living voice and the intimacy of a common life. He believed knowledge grows when you share it. Discussing ideas, seeing virtue embodied in others like Socrates was for Plato that's deeply impactful. And it's in that letter he quotes someone, Hecate, I think, saying, "I have begun to be a friend to myself," highlighting how that inner self-reliance actually lets you be a better friend to others.
He also talks about voluntary discomfort in letter 18, like fasting or living simply sometimes. Why?
To prepare for hardship. To know you can survive without luxury. It removes fear and builds resilience. If you can be content with very little, you're truly free from the whims of external fortune.
And letter 41 touches on the God within us. What's that about?
He sees a kind of divine spark in human reason, and also a presence of the divine in nature's power groves, caves, rivers. But the ultimate God within is that rational, virtuous soul that can rise above external events, stay calm, stay in control. True worth comes from this inner goodness, he says, not from anything outside.
So these Stoic insights from both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, they really offer a powerful mental toolkit, don't they, for navigating challenges by constantly bringing the focus back to your inner world, your thoughts, attitudes, responses.
It's all about recognizing that while you can't control what happens to you, you have immense power over how you react to it, building that inner citadel of resilience, as they might say.
Okay, so we've gone from letting go to building strength. Now let's shift gears completely to a philosophy that finds profound beauty not in strength or control, but in flaws and fleeting moments. Wabi-Sabi.
Wabi-Sabi, yeah. It's a Japanese philosophy, an aesthetic, really, with deep roots in Zen Buddhism. It's all about appreciating the imperfect, the impermanent, and the incomplete. Finding elegance in simplicity, richness in modesty, and depth in the marks that time leaves behind.
In a world obsessed with, flawless filters and constant upgrades, why is this philosophy so relevant for us today?
Well, it offers a really powerful antidote, I think, to that relentless pressure for perfection. Imagine actually finding beauty, not in reaching some impossible standard, but in the authentic reality of things, including yourself. Scars, flaws, signs of wear, they're celebrated.
Right. Yeah.
It shifts your focus from what's wrong or missing to appreciating what is. It's a totally different way of seeing.
So it sees imperfections as adding character, telling a story, not just defects to be hidden or fixed.
Precisely. And accepting imperfection like that fosters a much more compassionate, realistic self-image. It reduces the stress and anxiety that comes from chasing flawlessness. And it builds resilience, too, by acknowledging that decay and change are just natural parts of life. It really challenges that modern obsession with polished perfection.
Let's break down some key principles from the sources. First, embracing imperfection.
Yeah, that idea captured in the, quote, "perfection is not attainable." There's a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in. It's about seeing the marks of time or use or even damage, not as flaws, but as things that add depth, history, character. Like a chipped teacup, maybe, or a worn wooden table. They have a story.
Which connects to finding beauty in the imperfect.
Nature's the great teacher here, isn't it? A gnarled old tree, an asymmetrical rock, the irregular patterns of rust on metal. The beauty isn't in perfect symmetry or smoothness, but in the organic, unique forms shaped by natural processes. It cultivates an appreciation for natural aging.
Then there's embracing transience.
The beauty of life is in its impermanence. Embrace the dance of change. Think of cherry blossoms, intensely beautiful, but only for a very short time. Wabi-Sabi celebrates this fleeting nature of life and things.
That sounds a little melancholic, maybe, but the sources suggest it's actually freeing.
It is, in a way, recognizing that joy and sorrow, possessions, even life itself, are temporary. It teaches us not to cling so tightly. It helps you navigate change more gracefully, like the natural shift of seasons. And it can even reduce existential dread by reframing life as this precious temporary journey to be fully experienced because it's temporary.
And finally, the power of simplicity.
In simplicity, there is truth. It's about stripping away the non-essentials to focus on the core. This isn't just minimalism in design, though that's part of it. It's about inner clarity, too. Finding appreciation in basic fundamental things.
Like clearing out not just physical clutter, but mental and digital clutter as well.
Exactly. Reducing all that noise allows for a clearer mind, less stress, deeper self-reflection. And it helps you make more conscious choices that are aligned with your actual values. It brings a kind of peace that external complexity often disrupts.
Okay, so how can you actually weave Wabi-Sabi into daily life? It sounds nice, but practically.
Well, it can start really simply, with mindful appreciation. Maybe begin your day by just noticing something small and imperfectly beautiful, the way sunlight falls on a dusty surface, the unique texture of an old book cover, the sound of rain.
Or maybe using journaling, like you mentioned, to note those small, gratitude-worthy, imperfect details you notice through the day.
That's a great practice. You can also apply simplicity to your living space. Decluttering, yes, but maybe keeping items that have real meaning or purpose. Maybe repairing an old chair instead of instantly buying new, honoring its story and imperfections.
And embracing the natural flow, kind of like we talked about with Taoism, that can have a wabi-sabi feel too.
Absolutely. Letting go of the need for absolute control when plans inevitably change. Seeing those deviations not as failures, but just as part of life's imperfect transient path. Sometimes they lead to unexpected learning or joy, right?
It sounds like it's really about training your eye and your mind to find contentment and beauty in the ordinary, the flawed, the temporary things all around us.
Precisely. Shifting your focus from chasing some illusion of perfection to appreciating the rich, textured reality of what is. It can transform ordinary days into opportunities for, well, quiet joy and profound appreciation.
Okay, so from finding peace in the flow with Taoism, building inner strength with Stoicism, appreciating imperfection with Wabi-Sabi, we turn now to a philosophy that suggests meaning isn't found at all, but actively created. Existentialism.
Ah, existentialism. Yes, this one tackles those huge fundamental questions of existence head-on. It puts the individual human being, their freedom, their choices, right at the absolute center. And the core idea, which can be unsettling, is that the universe itself doesn't come preloaded with meaning or purpose.
So it's entirely up to us. Each individual has to forge their own meaning and define themselves.
That's the crux of it. This philosophy really came into its own in the 20th century, partly, reacting to the chaos of wars and the collapse of old certainties. It has roots in thinkers like Kierkegaard, focused on individual subjective truth, and Nietzsche's critique of traditional values. But the sources you sent focus mainly on Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus.
Sartre, right. A central figure, profoundly influenced by his experiences in World War II, imprisonment. His foundational idea is existence precedes essence.
Which basically means we are born first without a predefined nature or purpose. Unlike, say, a paper knife, which is made with the essence of niceness already determined. For humans, Sartre said, we exist first, and then through our choices, our actions, we define what it means to be human, what it means to be us.
And that leads to his idea of radical freedom and responsibility. If there's no blueprint, we're terrifyingly free.
Utterly free. Every choice we make isn't just about us. It defines in that moment what humanity is or can be.
And that freedom comes with this immense weight of responsibility.
Exactly. We are responsible for creating ourselves. Sartre called the feeling that comes with this anguish the burden of total freedom. And he said we often try to escape it through what he termed bad faith.
Which is like blaming our circumstances, our genetics, our upbringing, society's expectations, anything to avoid owning our freedom and responsibility.
Precisely. Living authentically, for Sartre, starts by facing this radical freedom and also facing the nothingness, the lack of inherent given meaning in the universe. In his novel Nausea, he captures this feeling, writing something like, every existing thing is born without reason, prolongs itself out of weakness, and dies by chance.
Oof, that sounds pretty bleak initially.
It can feel that way, but the sources show how he pivots. Confronting the absurdity of existence, the lack of given meaning, actually affords freedom. As he wrote, I am free, there is absolutely no more reason for living. I have to build them myself.
Ah, okay, so it's call to action. If life isn't inherently meaningful, you have the power and the necessity to create your own meaning through your conscious choices.
That's the existentialist leap. Now, Albert Camus is often grouped with them, though he preferred the label absurdist. He agreed the universe is indifferent, silent on meaning.
Right. The absurd is that clash between our human craving for meaning and order and a universe that offers none.
Exactly. But Camus's response wasn't despair. It was revolt. A rebellion against the absurd, not by finding meaning, but by affirming life anyway, by embracing freedom and pursuing passion.
Like the character Mersault in The Stranger, he confronts the world's indifference and it leads to a kind of radical shift for him.
Yeah, Mersault's emotional detachment at first mirrors that indifference. He says something like, I had lived my life one way and I could just as well have lived it another. But later, facing death, he consciously opens himself to the gentle indifference of the world. And in that acceptance, he finds a strange peace and affirmation of his own path, completely free from what society expects.
And of course, the myth of Sisyphus is his most famous metaphor for this whole struggle.
Sisyphus, yeah. Condemned by the gods to eternally push a massive boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll back down again forever. An utterly meaningless, repetitive, absurd task. Yet Camus argues Sisyphus can find happiness.
How? By embracing the struggle itself.
Exactly that. The struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Despite the ultimate futility, despite knowing the boulder will roll down, Sisyphus finds dignity, purpose, even joy in the act of pushing, in his conscious rebellion against his absurd fate.
So like Sisyphus, we face uncertainty, setbacks, mortality, an indifferent universe.
Yeah.
But we can still affirm life and find meaning in the struggle, in the engagement.
That's the core of it. Camus famously said, I draw from the absurd three consequences: my revolt, my freedom, and my passion. Facing the absurd head-on actually liberates you to live more authentically, to pursue what truly lights you up without needing cosmic validation.
Applying existentialism to modern life, then, gives you a really powerful lens.
It really does. It challenges you to see your radical freedom and your responsibility in all your daily choices, career, relationships, hobbies, even how you react to setbacks. You're not just a product of your circumstances, you are fundamentally your choices.
And you have to create your own personal meaning. Not looking for external validation, but building it through your actions, your values, your commitments.
Right. And confronting adversity isn't just something to endure. It becomes an act of revolt and growth. A failure isn't an endpoint. It's part of the absurd journey, a chance to learn, adapt, and reaffirm your chosen path. Pursuing your passions isn't some frivolous extra. It's an essential part of living authentically and finding fulfillment on your own terms.
It also means you have to forge your own moral compass, doesn't it? In a world without absolute, externally given laws.
Yes. Finding purpose and fulfillment isn't about discovering some pre-written destiny. It's about actively constructing it. Sartre's point, we are our choices, becomes a kind of instruction manual. Fulfillment arises from living authentically, engaging deeply, creating that personal meaning for yourself. You measure your life by authenticity, passion, growth, engagement, not just by external metrics like money or status.
So existentialism is really about embracing that profound individual agency, shaping your own life story, living deeply, fully aware of both the freedom and the heavy responsibility that comes with it.
It places a significant weight on you, definitely, but also immense power directly in your hands.
Okay. Finally, let's turn to the art of connection itself, exploring Eric Fromm's perspective on love from the art of loving.
Eric Fromm, yes. His core idea really pushes back against how we often think about love culturally. He argues love isn't just some passive emotion you fall into. It's an active art, a skill, something you have to cultivate through knowledge, effort, and practice, like learning an instrument.
That feels so important today, especially with how media often portrays love as this magical feeling that just happens, or it doesn't.
Exactly. Fromm says, just like any art, music, painting, medicine, true love requires discipline, concentration, patience, and real effort. It involves a deep understanding and connection that you actively build and maintain. He talks about different categories like brotherly love for humanity, romantic love, which he stresses needs conscious effort to sustain over time, and self-love.
Self-love is really key for Fromm, isn't it? Before you can love others.
Absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
And he's clear it's not narcissism or egoism. It's about respecting and understanding yourself, acknowledging your own worth. He argues you can't truly love others authentically if you don't first have that foundation of healthy self-love. He also mentions love of God as a kind of transcendental connection, but his main focus is really on the active, relational aspects of love between people.
And he breaks down love into 4 key components, viewing them as active attributes, not just feelings. First one is care.
Right. An active concern for the life and growth of the person or thing you love, whether it's a partner, a child, a friend, even an idea or a cause. It's shown through actions and attitudes that nurture and support that growth.
Then responsibility,
which he defines not as obligation or duty imposed from outside, but as a voluntary act of responding to the needs, expressed or implied, of the other person, being attentive, being responsive to their well-being.
Third is respect,
which means recognizing the other person as a unique individual, seeing them as they truly are, without trying to change them into who you want them to be, allowing them the space to grow and unfold in their own way while maintaining your own individuality too.
And finally, knowledge,
which is about deep understanding, going beyond the surface level to really grasp the other person's thoughts, feelings, motivations, fears, history. You can only truly care for, be responsible towards, and respect someone if you genuinely know them deeply.
And Fromm emphasizes this isn't a one-time thing, it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. Like mastering any art or skill, love requires continuous learning, adapting, practice. It's dynamic, it evolves, it's not static.
So how do we apply this art of loving in our modern world with all the fleeting digital connections, the curated profiles?
Well, Fromm's framework actually provides really solid grounding, I think. It means practicing mindfulness in our interactions, really listening actively, trying to cultivate genuine empathy, seeking meaningful conversations over just superficial exchanges, whether that's online or face-to-face.
So it requires active effort, putting in the time and energy to truly get to know someone beyond just their online persona, understanding their needs, desires, fears.
Definitely. Respect for individuality becomes even more vital in our diverse societies. Appreciating differences, celebrating uniqueness, and practicing self-love is crucial, maybe more than ever, in this age of constant social media comparison. Things like setting healthy boundaries, focusing on internal validation rather than external likes, engaging in genuine self-care.
Responsibility extends even to our digital interactions, right? Being accountable for our words and actions online.
Yes. And applying knowledge means not just knowing individuals, but also trying to understand the complex societal factors that influence relationships today. From Fromm's perspective, really encourages us to strengthen our real friendships too, through deep conversations, genuine interest, and reliable support.
The sources you sent briefly touch on other perspectives on love, Plato, Aristotle, Bowlby's attachment theory showing it's multifaceted. But Fromm's art framework is the core message here. Love as something you actively do, a skill you practice and hone, not just something that happens to you.
It really transforms love from a passive experience you hope for into an active practice you engage in. It suggests the depth and richness of your connections are directly tied to the conscious effort and skill you invest.
It's a really compelling idea, and that quote from Fromm sums it up. Love is the only sane and satisfactory answer to the problem of human existence. It elevates it beyond just a nice feeling to something fundamental to a well-lived life.
It weaves really nicely into the other philosophies we've looked at, doesn't it? Offering a path towards meaningful connection alongside inner peace, resilience, and purpose.
So let's try and bring these threads together. We've explored finding peace by letting go with Taoism, building inner strength and resilience with Stoicism, appreciating the beauty in the imperfect journey with Wabi-Sabi, the challenge and freedom of creating our own meaning with Existentialism, and actively cultivating connection through the art of loving with Fromm.
Yeah, and what's really powerful, I think, is how these ancient or, quite philosophical ideas offer surprisingly practical, relevant guidance for navigating the pressures, the uncertainties, the search for meaning in our lives today. They all, in their unique ways, encourage looking inward, taking conscious action, finding value in the present moment and in imperfection, and actively shaping your experience of life.
Thank you so much for providing all these sources. They made this deep dive possible, and it's just a powerful reminder that the search for how to live well is absolutely timeless, and wisdom really does come in many different forms.
It definitely underscores that while the external world often feels chaotic, maybe uncontrollable, we have profound agency in cultivating our internal landscape, our thoughts, our attitudes, our responses, and how we choose to engage with life and with each other.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Looking back at all these profound ideas we've touched on, the peace Taoism seems to offer, the resilience Stoicism cultivates, the beauty Wabi-Sabi reveals, the radical freedom Existentialism points to, or the deep intentionality of Fromm's approach to love, what single concept, maybe, resonates most strongly with you right now.
And keeping in mind that wisdom isn't just knowing stuff,
Right.
it's applying it
Yeah.
in practice.
Right. So if happiness doesn't necessarily come from controlling outcomes or achieving perfection or finding some predefined meaning out there, but maybe, just maybe, it comes more from letting go, cultivating inner strength, embracing imperfection, creating your own purpose, and practicing love as a skill. What's one small step, just one, towards practicing one of these philosophies that you could perhaps take today?